Language policy discourse in both native English-speaking and non-native English-speaking countries revolves around English in different ways. The place of a language in a language policy is determined by a number of factors. For example, population. What percentage of population speaks a certain language? The degree of prestige a certain language enjoys. The status of a language, for example, whether it is a national language, an official language, a second language, etc. It also involves the functions a language performs, in what different domains a language is used. And finally, nationalism. For example, is a language looked at as a unifying force, or is a language considered a symbol of identity and can be used for uniting people and strengthening this feeling of nationalism? When it comes to inner circle countries, we see all these factors in action vis-a-vis English. So English in these countries is the language of the majority. So in terms of population, it is used by the majority of people. So these things, for example, status, nationalism, etc., all these things are not really the issue. The issue in inner circle countries is the role to be given to minority languages. For example, in many English-speaking countries, there is a large number of immigrants residing. So what role should be given to the languages of the minorities? And similarly, status planning does not involve determining a role for English, but it involves the role of or the status of different dialects as to which dialect should be considered the standard dialect, especially in the presence of certain dialects which are considered non-standard. In outer circle countries, on the other hand, English is used by only a minority of the population. The outer circle countries comprise other countries which were under the colonial rule earlier and where English is used as an official or a second language. So despite being an official or a second language in these countries, the learning of English is possible only through education. And in many of these countries, access to education is limited to a very small number of people in the population. So what we see is that despite being a second language and official language, the English language is used by only a minority of people. But again, despite being a language of the minority, it has a lot of prestige and therefore it enjoys a very powerful position in these countries. One factor which adds to the power of English in these countries is the fact that it is used by the elite of the society. Because of its use by the elite, it plays a very important role in the language policy, and the language policy discourse in these countries again revolves around English. The functionality of English, that is the function that English can perform, is recognized. People have no objection to English performing several serious kinds of function, or English being used in several important domains in these countries. People have no objection to it. For example, in Pakistan, English is used in several important domains, including bureaucracy, education, judiciary, etc. Language policy in expanding circle lacks the population base. For example, if English is used by a minority of people in the outer circle countries, in the expanding circle countries, the number of people who use English is even smaller, even fewer. So, In these countries, expanding circle countries, the countries where English is used as a foreign language, the population base is very small. Population base of English language users is very small. It doesn't have any official status. For example, in outer circle countries, it is either a second language or an official language or both. In the expanding circle countries, English has no official status. Despite this fact, English enjoys a great deal of prestige. Now, where does this prestige come from? This prestige is a result of the instrumental value of English that people have realized that knowing English can make them look fashionable, knowing English can give them access to education institutions abroad, can connect them with people in different parts of the world, and also can open the avenues for better jobs for them in English-speaking countries. So this instrumental value of English is fully realized by the users of English in the expanding circle countries. The acceleration in the use of English, this increase in the use of English in these countries is also a result of globalization. People have realized that if they want to compete with a global market or take part in the activities which are at global level, which take place at global level, they will have to learn English. Because of all these reasons, because of this awareness that people have in the expanding circle countries of the importance of English and their desire to take part in the global activities in different spheres of life, English features prominently in language policy discourse in these countries as well. So in these countries, although English has no official status, it is used by very few people. Despite all these facts, language policy discourse includes English in determination of or in determining different language or education policies.